many people in the room are already using Instagram? Just raise your hand if you do. Wonderful. And how many of you have smart mobile phones that you can get the app on, you can take pictures on? Is that everybody? Okay, wonderful. Because that's kind of also how I'm going to gear some of the content parts of things, because that is the easiest way to create content is just carrying your phone with you all the time. So here's everything we're going to cover. We're going to just kind of start with the basics of what is Instagram, why should you care about it, how does it compare to other social media, how's it the same, how is it different, how can you strategize with it. We're going to talk about kind of building a strategy, but because Instagram is more than just posting a bunch of pretty pictures, it works a lot better and a lot more effectively as a marketing tool if you have a little bit of a strategy and a brand behind it. And some of you may be thinking about branding, but if you're not, we'll kind of go through the basics of that. We'll talk about how to use the platform. That'll be some of the more basic information. So I'll have screenshots of literally the whole, kind of walking you through how to post, how to find new people, how to go through your newsfeed, just really the basics of how to use the platform, because it isn't necessarily intuitive. There's a lot of little symbols and you kind of have to know what they are to know how to use them. And then we'll talk about how to create good content. So how to tell that brand story that we discussed early on. What's a hashtag, which I probably should put up later, but it just kind of fits into the flow better there, because that is one of the main tools you use in Instagram to kind of grow community and grow an audience. And then we'll talk about some of the other things you can do within the platform. You can do these new fun things called stories. You can post other people's posts. You can share directly to Facebook. And then lastly, we'll kind of talk about how to cultivate an audience. So how do you spread your farm out there? How do you find new friends? How do you find new collaborators? How do you find other farmers? How do you really like turn it into a network? And then I'll give you seven steps to kind of move forward so that you're not totally overwhelmed by everything that I tell you. So yeah, to get started, what is Instagram? A lot of you probably know this. Real basics, it is an app that you get through your phone or your tablet for sharing photos. That is the basics. You can now also share video. That's only been a couple years in the making, so you can share photo or video content. Used to just be able to post once. Now you can post both on your own profile as well as through these things called stories, which I'll talk about later. So it's got two different ways to share photos and videos. And it's really focused on storytelling because it's so image heavy. You may think that it's just about beautiful imagery, but it's about sharing your story. Instagram is all about figuring out how to share your story. So again, that's why that kind of brand component can be really important. The general operation of Instagram is pretty similar to Facebook. You have a profile, you populate your profile with content, and then you have a news feed similar to the home screen on Facebook. So you just scroll through, you can see other people's content, you create the content you want to see by following other people. And it also has a messaging feature similar to Facebook. That is semi-new. It's been there 2 or 3 years now, but a lot of people, it's not clear that it's a messaging platform, so that's a good one. I'm going to point out where that is so you know when you're receiving messages and when you might even be receiving hidden messages. But yeah, so the sole purpose of Instagram is really just to share your story. You can almost think of it, I consider it almost like a mini blog. You can really kind of use a similar format to that, or a magazine. It's not like Facebook where you can link to things, you can organize things. It's not a Band-Aid solution to better marketing. It's not great for sharing a lot of text content. Those are actually things that Facebook's going to do better for you. It's really just a platform to create connections, to share your story. And why should you be using it? It is currently the fastest it's the fastest growing social media platform, second only to Facebook. It is also now owned by Facebook, which is making it grow even faster. And Facebook is having kind of a identity crisis of things. Facebook's getting increasingly political. They're getting in trouble for some of the ways they're using user content. Yes. No, I flipped forward and then flipped back. Just to confuse you, Claire. I won't do it again. The third one, I think. Yes. Yep. Sorry. So yeah, it's increasingly where people are. It's where people are engaging. People are still using Facebook again, like I was saying, to kind of organize content and organize things. But the place people are going to stay and to hang out and to have conversations is increasingly on Instagram. So you can really think of it like you would think of any other community. It's a place where conversations are happening. Facebook is more just people shouting at each other about different things. And a lot of young people and a lot of people generally are starting to flock away from Facebook because they don't want to be shouted at about different things. They don't want to just have a place to scream their opinions loudly. They want to have somewhere where they can have more of a conversation. So Instagram is a place to do that, which is wonderful. It's generally a really positive, supportive community as well. It also has higher engagement than Facebook. If you've been using Facebook since you started your farm and you've been doing it for a while, you've probably noticed that a lot of your reach and your audiences are kind of plummeting. That's super normal. Facebook keeps changing the way their algorithms work. They keep encouraging you to buy ads and to boost posts. And so it's a lot harder to get authentic reach. It's a lot easier to get authentic reach in Instagram because you can use hashtags and you can tag people in an easier way, and you can build community easier. And it's increasingly where your customers are, because a lot of millennials are on, all millennials are on Instagram for the most part. So everyone, 20 to 35, this is their platform they're using, which are increasingly going to be appealing customers to you. And it's also where folks are collaborating. So if you're trying to get featured in local papers, if you're trying to work with more chefs, if you're trying to work with food bloggers, if you're trying to work with people in interesting collaborative ways, building a relationship on Instagram first means when you send that email or you have an idea to work with them, they're a lot more likely to respond because they've already been building this relationship through Instagram. And yeah, it allows you to quickly and easily share your story. Essentially, it's that mini blog. Every one of these pictures that I have here has a broader story that goes with it. It tells someone what's happening on my farm. It not only keeps them informed, but it tells them about my products. It tells them about things that are coming up. And it builds community in all the ways that generally us farmers who are trying to build community really, really love. So what is it not? Come on in, no problem. It doesn't have some of the user ability of Facebook. It doesn't have some of the, I guess it doesn't have some of the features of Facebook, and that is intentional because they're trying to keep it more about conversations, less about structure. So you cannot create an event in Instagram. You can promote an event, you can link back to your Facebook event, you can link to a brown paper tickets event listing, but you can't directly create events within Instagram. It's not great for linking to things. You get one opportunity to link in Instagram. It's on your profile page, and it's only one. So one thing to think about with that is almost organize your year on what your call to action is, and always have a link that's your call to action on your profile page that doesn't change that often. So, I mean, for me, January to May, that link on my homepage is always sign up for my CSA. That's pretty much all it is. Occasionally I'll switch it over to I'm selling seedlings, but for the most part, that link shouldn't change because when people go to your profile, that's the one thing they might click on. You can also just leave it as your website year round if you want, but if there's something you want to push your customers, push your audience to do, that's where you'll put that one link. An effective way to use that after the sign up you've filled up and the remainder of the year, you might want to leave that as a link to sign up for your newsletter, your email newsletter, and that'll encourage people when they see that, they'll say, oh, like, they have a little tag in their bio that says sign up to learn more about us with a little down finger emoji, and it's got your email newsletter link. Halfway 6 months out of the year, people will be clicking on that, and you'll be growing your email list really organically. The other thing that I just wanted to make sure I told everyone right away, precursor, Instagram is not a band-aid solution to better marketing. It does take effort to cultivate. So if you're just going to post once every couple months, you're not going to like on anyone's stuff, you're not going to comment on anyone's stuff, you're not going to be tagging anyone, you're just throwing a picture up haphazardly a couple times a month, it's not going to do a whole lot for you. I really like that community analogy. It's just like any other community you're part of. If you want to build a community and an audience within Instagram, it's going to take some effort and some work to cultivate, and you're going to need to build some relationships just like you would do naturally. And I'll share a lot of tips to how to do that in a really organic way. But don't just think, oh, cool, I learned how to use this platform, I'm going to throw a picture up every once in a while. It's probably not going to do a whole bunch for you. So that goes into that second one. It's not a place to just post random images. If you're telling a good story with those random images, it can be a place to post random images, but it just needs a little more thought than that. So I just wanted to really quickly break down different social media platforms so that you kind of understand the differences and the nuances, and which might be useful to you. If you're only using one social media platform, you probably already know this, it should be Facebook. Like if you're only using one, it still has the number one, like it has the most people more than anywhere else. It has the most things that you can do with it, but increasingly the second place you should be is Instagram. Facebook's trending a little older. It's where people share opinions, like I said before. It's really hard to find old content on Facebook. You've probably noticed this yourself. If you go to your Facebook profile and you want to see a post that you did 2 weeks ago, it's really hard. You have to scroll really far. You have to click to see more. Instagram, you can just keep scrolling and scrolling, and people can see posts from a year ago pretty easily. So people can really watch. If you have a new customer who wants to learn more about you, and go straight to your Instagram profile and learn a whole bunch more about you. They can learn your story in a few minutes. Facebook is still great for organizing people, so definitely still use it for events, use it for groups. It has more features, like I said. But the interesting thing with Instagram versus Facebook, Facebook you have to become friends. So you have to say, hey, I want to be friends with you, person to person. Where Instagram, if you're a person, if you're a business, either way, some people just click follow and then they follow you. You don't have to approve it unless your Instagram is set up as private, which if you're using it for business purposes, your Instagram should never be set up as private, in my opinion. So people just, they click follow you because they found you somewhere and then they follow you. So it's not, it doesn't take quite as much effort as Facebook in some ways. Twitter, I discourage farmers from using generally. I don't use Twitter very often. If it has worked for you, that's great. But I think if you're using two, use Facebook and Instagram. Twitter is largely used by news outlets, politicians, celebrities. They're usually breaking news, breaking urgent things. Not super important for our line of work. It's good to go if you're looking for like what happened. You know, everyone's a buzz about this. You can go to Twitter and you can find information, but it's not great. It's not great for marketing. Pinterest, people go here to solve a problem. Pinterest is essentially turning into a search engine of sorts. So people are going there to find recipes. They're trying to find how to redecorate their house. They're trying to do different things. So it can have a usefulness for farming. Again, it would probably be third after Facebook and Instagram. And then Snapchat, I tell people, is primarily used just for friends. I wouldn't really encourage you to use Snapchat business to business. Some major brands are using Snapchat. I don't think it's super effective. And now Instagram has rolled out this thing called Stories, and you can essentially have the same interaction that you have with Snapchat within Instagram, and it means you only have to deal with two platforms as opposed to more. So that's kind of the breakdown of all of your options. And how I use them is here. I use Instagram a lot. That is my day-to-day, how I share my life at the farm, how I share the struggles we're going through, what we're actively doing in the field, what the off season looks like. It's where I celebrate things. It's where I sell things, where I build partnerships. Instagram is where I am the majority of the time on social media, where I interact with my CSA members. I've just started using it, but that more in the last year, following CSA members and watching what their life looks like and commenting on things, and that has been super effective. I didn't even really mean to be. Some of them just started commenting, so it caught my eye. I started following them back, not even knowing they were members, and it really helped me understand how they're involved in the community, how they might, if I have an event, be a great person to plug into. So interacting with your CSA members is a wonderful way to use Instagram. And then Facebook, again, like I said, I put events on there. I have some groups that I use within my CSA to share recipes and things, like private CSA groups. I'll link to things on Facebook because Instagram's not effective. So if there's a really good news story about CSA or my farm is featured in a news story, that's going straight to Facebook because I can link to it. It'll get usually good engagement still because it's a bigger thing. But generally the only way I'm using Facebook is through this connection that I'll show you, where I can just press a button and what I put on Instagram will go directly over to Facebook. And I'll talk a little bit about the pros and the cons of doing that as well. And then I do use Pinterest. I use it as a recipe aggregator, pretty much just to make creating my newsletters a whole heck of a lot easier. Every time I ever link to a recipe in a newsletter, I store it to Pinterest on a board with that vegetable. And then I can always go back later and I can figure out, oh, I want to have 3 carrot recipes because we're giving them 4 pounds of carrots this week. I can go to my Pinterest board and go to carrot, and then I can pull some of my favorite recipes that I haven't used for a while into my newsletter. And if I'm using it that way, ideally my CSA members will use it the same way. They can see all of the 100 recipes I posted on carrots just with the click of a button. And that's worked really, really well for me. Yeah, it makes their life easier. It makes my life easier. So that's a good one. And then I use Snapchat occasionally for fun with friends, but pretty rarely, and I use Twitter almost never. Are there any questions? I do want to stop for questions. Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's a great point. Oh, sorry. I'm supposed to repeat the question. Thank you. Someone asked if Pinterest would work if you don't have photos to go along with your recipes, and that is correct. So Pinterest it's mostly photos like Instagram, and then it's linking to things. So if you don't have photos of your recipes, it's not going to work very well. And if you don't have a link for a recipe, it's also not going to work very well. The ease, and this fades into like my broader strategy. I have a blog as well. The Leek and the Carrot is the name of my blog, and that kind of started as the recipe aggregator as well. Like I found this great recipe. It was in the asparagus and zucchini cookbook. I tweaked it a little bit. I can't link to that anywhere. My newsletter for my members is fully online. I would have to type that whole thing up. So instead, in the winter, I'll put some of my favorite recipes from favorite cookbooks. I'll make them my own. I'll put them on my blog. I'll take some pictures. Then I can link to that on Pinterest. But yeah, that's a great point. That's only going to work when you're sharing other bloggers' contents or magazine recipes, those kind of things. Any other questions about kind of just the breakdown of what Instagram is, what it isn't, why to use it, social media platforms generally? The question was, is my main goal still to get people to my website through Instagram? Yes. During sign-up season, it's helpful sometimes if they go to my website. I'm sending them directly to my CSA sign-up link because most of the information about my CSA lives there. And then it's not, you don't want people to have to click multiple times is a good general rule of thumb, because you bring up a website, you're like, oh, look at all this great content, I'll read this later. Then all of a sudden your computer shuts down, you forget to open that tab again, they're lost. So I try to really have a call to action as that link as often as possible. Not every farmer does that. A lot of people will just do their website and hope that people will click through, but I'm more of a, hey, this is what I want you to do right now. I want you to sign up, I want you to buy seedlings, I want you to sign up for my emails. That's generally how I use it. So the question is, do we really need email lists? Is that still a thing? I actually just started an email list for the farm this spring because it is totally a thing. It's annoying. I've been avoiding it for a while. Email is not dead. Email is the most effective way to reach anyone always. It's better than your website. It's better than Facebook. It's better than Instagram. And the other thing I learned in a workshop a few months ago that kind of blew my mind is that, okay, so Facebook is fading. Facebook is starting. People are flocking away from it a little bit less than they used to. Say you have 5,000 followers on Facebook, what happens to them? They're just gone. If they're just not active on the platform anymore, this huge engagement you built through being really intelligent and smart, they're just gone because they're not using it. So maybe you were quick and you converted them to Instagram before Facebook faded away. Now you have this huge audience on Instagram. That's amazing. The next social media platform is going to come around. Hopefully Instagram's going to last for a good while, but maybe you learn it and you get really good at it, and within 5 years it's faded away. Again, you lose all of those great people. So the best way to be able to know, you say you own your list. You own the people who support your farm by having an email list. You don't have to send an email that often. You could just have a platform for collecting emails. We do it through our website. Squarespace will connect it to a Google Drive, or you can connect it directly to MailChimp. You could send 2 emails a year. It doesn't have to be a really, really active thing. It could just be like, hey, season's about to start. This is what's going on the farm. Hey, season just ended. This is how our season went. It could be that basic. But you should try to be collecting email addresses, or at least thinking of how to strategize that. Don't start doing it now. It's a mess. It's not a good thing to get into right before the season. But like during the winter, say, okay, I think I want to start collecting email addresses. What does that look like? But I agree, it's annoying. And one more thing. Yeah, the question was, do I use Squarespace and connect it to Google Drive? That's the way I do it now. I just converted to Squarespace this winter as well. Similar reasons. It has really good usability. It connects the things you want to be using anyway, in a way that is a lot less effort. So I do recommend Squarespace. And you can set up an easy website yourself. It's not going to have all the bells and whistles that a full-blown developer website would have, but it can be pretty darn good. Stripe. Mhm. 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 Mhm.
a percentage, which makes a huge difference the second you go over like
Yep.
$5,000 a month.
Yep.
You're way overpaying. And I learned that before or after I
Yeah.
developed my Squarespace.
Yeah. And that's true. Retail does add a different element. Where for CSA shares, what a lot of people are doing, what I'm doing, is you can send me a check still. This is the price of my CSA. Do you want to pay online? Well, this platform charges me 3%, so I'm going to charge you 3%. I don't love that that's the way I'm doing it, but it seems like the way most farmers are doing it, so I feel like it's okay. I'm only having about 10 to 15% of my shares being sold um, through the Stripe platform, but it is, that's a big cut.
Yeah, it's a big cut.
It's a lot.
I did the math on it, and it's like somewhere in the 5,000 to 7,000 a month range. You really want to go through separate credit card processor versus Stripe or PayPal.
Those are great points. So yeah, do you want to use, or how do you want to use Instagram? This is a really good thing to kind of identify, not necessarily before you use the platform. If you've already been using it for a couple of years, this isn't going to mess anything up. It took me a while to define these things, but it's just good to be thinking about how you want to use it. You just want it to be a creative outlet. You just love taking pictures of your farm, and that just brings you immense joy. Or you're kind of artistic and you just want to share photos. That's okay. Instagram can just be that for you. Do you want to build a customer base? Do you mainly want to be marketing through it? All of these things, thinking about how you're going to use it they'll change the way you use the platform a little bit. If you're trying to build a consumer base, what you do, there's going to be a lot more storytelling. There's going to be a lot more. You're going to also have those posts where you're selling things occasionally, but it's going to be a lot more. Why am I special? Why am I unique? Why should someone buy from me? Or if it's just a creative outlet and you don't really care if you sell shares through it, then it doesn't need to have so much of kind of this story and this getting to know you and this identifying with your brand. You just want to use it to engage with other farmers. A lot of farmers are using it for that now. They don't really care about reaching customers through it. They're just sharing and following a million other farmers, and they're seeing like, oh, they're tilling up this right now and it's looking like that, and oh, they use this new tool or they did this new hack. So you can also just use it, or you can use it a lot of these ways, but it's just smart to think about before you start using the platform. Who do you want to be following? Who do you want to be reaching? Who do you want to be talking to? Because if you're only talking back and forth to farmers, well, even though you're engaging the platform and you're building a community, of other growers. You might not be reaching that many people that you want to sell to. So just really be thinking about, it's okay to engage with everybody that makes you happy, but be a little intentional about how you're using it. And then do you want it to be income generation? Probably not. The only reason I put this in here is so that you know there's so many people making money off Instagram nowadays. It's kind of crazy. There's people who are self-made millionaires just using Instagram. And that comes a lot of ways through affiliate links and giveaways and product promotion and a lot of big brand stuff. But you can still use some of those things. If you already have a relationship with, a worker share program, maybe you want to give 50% off a share or give a full share to someone who's a micro influencer, someone who has over 10,000 followers that's strategically, from Madison, loves healthy food, loves cooking all the time, that has a really loyal following. Maybe you want to give them a free share in exchange for taking pictures of it all summer and promoting your farm. Not in a promote-y way, but just in a really natural, like, hey, we got the CSA, we love it, these are the things we're cooking with it. You get some of that for free, which is amazing. And because that's Wisconsin from scratch. Yeah, and that's an amazing partnership. And sometimes, again, that might develop organically, but if you're having trouble selling shares, we're at only 70% for our CSA, which isn't bad, but one of our plans is if we're still kind of behind where we want to be in May, I might reach out to someone who has a larger following in the Madison area and be like, hey, do you want an every other week half share? That's my smallest share, but in exchange for them getting the word out a little bit. So yeah, you could maybe make income on it if you want. There's one farmer who is endorsed by Carhartt, and she gets literally truckloads of free Carhartt gear shipped to her. Another farmer I know got a free Subaru. So you can work with brands if you want. It's not super hard to do, but you need a large audience for that. But that could be something if that interests you. And like I say at the bottom, it's best to think about maybe 2 or 3 of these as a maximum. I wouldn't recommend using all of these. Don't do all these strategies at the same time. Kind of pick the 2 that suit you the best and focus on those. Maybe it's marketing and learning from other growers. Maybe it's building community with local chefs and local, community organizations. Figure out the ones that speak to you and kind of work on those first before you add in other things. And then lastly, how do you want people to see you? Like I said in the beginning, if you don't have a solid brand, people are going to come to your platform and they might be, or come to your profile and they might be kind of confused. Like, so for me, I created 2 accounts. I have a farm account and I have a blog account. The blog account has become my kind of life account. So I put all my traveling, everything I'm cooking, what hikes with my dogs, everything that I do is kind of on my blog account. Whereas the farm for me is, this is what's happening in the fields. This is what we're producing. This is what we're working on. Because I didn't want people to get confused of like, is she a farm? Why is she showing me pictures of her hikes in like Portland, Oregon? Like what? And it's okay to do some of your life in there, but for me, I really enjoy taking pictures of the places I go. And I was noticing I was putting up so many pictures of hiking and traveling and the food that I cook compared to the things in the field. And I was like, this is just going to confuse people. They're not going to know what my product is. So you want all of that to kind of be a part of your Instagram strategy. And you also want to define, I'm guessing some of you have done these things already, but these are just really good things to think about. What's your mission? What's the 2 to 3 sentences that, what are you trying to do with your CSA? Are you trying to build community? Are you trying to get people to eat healthier? Are you trying to increase the economic vitality of your rural area? Like what's your angle? What are you really excited about? Are you trying to get more organic food into the world? Like what are you doing? And make sure you kind of know that, because that's gonna put something into the tone of every post that you write. So these aren't things that you'll publicly write anywhere, but it's just called a brand guide. You should maybe have a 1-page document that kind of explores all of these questions. And then when you're framing these Instagram posts, thinking like, who am I? What's my business? How do I put a couple of these keywords into every post so people know, maybe you're just putting the word healthy into half of your post because you really want people to eat healthier and make this connection between vegetables and health, because they're not always. Knowing these things will allow you to be a little more strategic. So I actually went through these exercises too this winter, and I answered all of these questions. And if you want kind of like a how-to brand guide, I'd be super happy to share that with you, because this goes a little deeper. But what's your vision? That's essentially what that means, is what, if you didn't exist anymore, if you built things into a way that was so wonderful that you didn't need to exist anymore, what would that be? So for me, that's that farmers are respected, and anyone who wants to work in the ag industry can like make a fair income. That's one of my like visions for a better world. So that is going to be, I'm going to post pictures of my smiling employees and talking about how we help them achieve their dreams, things like that. Like, it just, knowing the answers to these questions will really help you as you're posting. And if you do have a logo and a tagline, these are really good things to put into your profile. Yes.
So, about sort of the different brand content, you give an example of how you have sort of your personal life in one
Yeah.
and the farm in the other. What if your farm brand kind of is multi-tiered? So for us, like we've got our produce and the CSA, and
Yep.
that's like the biggest part. But then we also really focus on like land stewardship. And
Yep.
really focus on like the wildlife that we see and the prairie burns and stuff like that. And now we're also starting to do some farm events and maybe wedding rentals.
Yep.
So it's already sort of multifaceted. And I know I also have a personal page for myself. I'm
Yep.
definitely not the communicator
Yeah.
for. I can
Yeah.
only do one.
Yeah.
Is that still confusing to have like multiple within our brand?
Yep. So the question is, what if your business is really multifaceted? Do you need to have different pages for different things that you're doing? I think no. I think if everything's still falling under the name of your business, those are just multifaceted aspects of your business that probably consistently fit a mission and a vision. So if you're doing a lot of restoration work, because that's part of your farm's mission, even though you're growing veggies, sometimes you're doing prairie restoration, sometimes those tie together. And it's the only differentiation I usually tell people to do is maybe a personal versus a business. I don't, if you end up, if you started a CSA farm, Marie, and you have your cider and maybe you have your cider house too or something, having them all under one name is actually better, because you're only having to grow one audience. For me, I understand that the people I speak to on my blog, even though there's some usefulness for my farm, that's a different audience than the people who support my farm. So that's, again, why I kind of made that split. I started all with everything under Raleigh's Hillside Farm for like 2 years. And then I started to see how I was using my blog, and it had evolved a little bit. And I was like, this is just going to confuse people because they are doing slightly different things. There's overlap, but the audiences are different. So if your audience is the same for all those other things, for you, that's probably, people in southern Wisconsin, because they would both get a CSA from you and maybe get married because they're from the area. I would keep it all the same under one. But that's a great question. And some brands even, Jenna Kutcher is a really like famous marketer from Wisconsin. She has 7 different businesses, and her website is just her name, jennakutcher.com, and everything else falls under it. Because for her, growing one account really strongly makes the most sense for her because everything still fits her mission, her vision, her core values. Even though the businesses might be different and varied, they all are reaching the same audience generally. So for her, it works to have them all together. And that's, I think it's fine to have it all together if they're all married. Jenna Kutcher. And she's very big brand marketing savvy, but she has a podcast as well as a lot of free resources online. If you can get through some of the kind of kitschy, brandy stuff, there's a lot of really good content there. I've learned a lot of marketing from her. All right, so is there any questions about branding? They're amazing. Yeah, they're really good. It wasn't intentional, but they are awesome. She's got beautiful animals. Before we get into exploring the platform, which this will go a little more basic. I started with kind of the big heady stuff first. Is there any questions about defining your brand and how to use the platform, those kind of things? I definitely can. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I definitely can. When I get to the profile page, just ask that question in case I forget. So this is Instagram. This is the platform. If you haven't downloaded or used it yet, I'm going to go. Will I still be on camera if I'm over? Oh, no, I'm not on camera yet anyway. It doesn't matter. So this is the home screen. You come in, Instagram on the top. That way, do I have a thing that lights up? Yeah, so that right there, that's the thing I was telling you that some people can't find. That little arrow, it's very subtle, is where people send you messages. So if you ever see a number here instead of a little arrow, someone sent you a message. It's good, even if you don't see numbers there, to click on that occasionally because people you don't follow who send you messages, it goes to like a private space. So I know that's confusing, but if someone follows you but you don't follow them back and they message you, this little thing won't show a number. So you'll have like hidden messages and they disappear every 2 weeks or something. I know, it's a really stupid part of it. It is similar to Facebook, but Facebook, because you're usually friends both ways, that happens more rarely. Here it'll happen a lot, especially as you gain followers. So it's a good rule of thumb to just make sure, like maybe every Monday morning you set an alarm just to make sure you check it, to make sure there might be some messages that you didn't see. These here are stories, which we'll talk about later. This is like the Snapchat of Instagram. This little camera here is how you add to your story. And then this is a post. So this is your home feed, similar to Facebook. Everyone that you follow, you can now follow both people and hashtags. We'll talk about the hashtag part later. But everyone you follow will appear in this home page that you can just scroll through. So everyone you follow, this is where you find them, and this is where you engage with others. Down here, this is the home screen. This is what we're on. You have a little search bar. This is how you can discover new people. You can search for new people. This is how you're going to do a post. We'll walk through that. And then this is where you see your notifications, similar to Facebook. It'll have a little like arrow with a little bubble that says, you got likes, you got comments, super similar to Facebook. You'll click on that to see the list of those notifications. And then this little circle with your photo will be your profile. So you'll click on that to get to your profile to make changes. But so the big thing to know about your home screen, this is where you're doing your engaging. Like, yes, you're posting, you're engaging when you're posting, but you're engaging with others the most from this screen right here. You're commenting on things, you're liking on things. So to like something, you just click this little heart, or you double click right on the picture with your thumb. That'll like it too. You click this to get to the comment section. The double click? I know, I didn't know that for a really long time. Which is easier when you're scrolling with your thumb. You just double click and then you like it. And then I do it on Facebook and it doesn't do anything. And then this here is a comment. So you can click on this button and you'll be able to comment on someone's photo, which is a great way to build engagement. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And then this is how so it's the same picture as this because you can send pictures you like directly to people within Instagram. It's not necessarily a way to build community, but it's a really if my friend is a farmer and she just got pregnant and I have all of these adorable pregnant farmers in my newsfeed, I'll send them to her sometimes when they're really cute or they remind me of her. So that's more just like for fun. That's not so much for community building, but it is really fun to use. Or if you're going to make something for dinner, you want to send a picture of it to your spouse. That's another place. Like, hey, does this look good? So that would be, if you send something here, it shows up in someone else's up here. And then this is a newer thing in Instagram, maybe a year it's been here. you can now save posts, which is also really good for like recipe inspiration. I mainly use it for travel or recipe inspiration. Whenever I see something like, oh, I should make a version of this, and I have a whole collection of recipes that I saved using this button. Because when you click on this, it'll directly save it to your account. No one else will see that collection. It'll be just for you. Any questions kind of about just the main home screen of Instagram? All right, and then this is your profile. So this is where you build your brand. So this is the place, like I said before, you kind of want to know your brand because you're going to build it here and you want it to be really clear. My Instagram is set up as a business account. I do recommend everyone does that. The only negative thing about setting up as a business account is sometimes you don't lose followers, but you lose reach right when you do it. That really concerned me when I first set up as a business account. I went from getting 50 likes on an image down to like 10. I was like, cool, I shouldn't have become a business account. Now they just want me to promote all the time. But if you keep using it, you'll build your engagement back up within like a month or two, which is a little scary, and it was for me, but don't be too nervous about that. You gain a lot more from having a business account than you lose initially. Oops, sorry. I thought I was hitting the highlight button. Claire, don't pay attention to me. But so when you have it as a business account, you'll get things like this. This you don't get in a normal account. You can click on that. That'll take you to your analytics and your metrics. It'll let you know what posts are performing well, what have good reach, what's leading to website clicks. These are things that might be really useful to you. I don't check mine very often, but I'm still happy they're there. And it'll also give you the option to have this call email directions button. Only businesses get this. So I think you can choose if you want it or not, but you can put your phone number in, you can put your email in, you can put your address in, and if people find out about you, I don't know how, but you know, we're part of the Soil Sisters tour and they are looking me up on Instagram because that's where they usually talk to me, they can click right in that direction, it'll shoot you right over to Google Maps. They'll be able to find my farm. So it's nice to have a business account because you get a couple of these extra things that can be really valuable to a business. Those are kind of the basics of a business account, and you get highlights like this. This is only because I'm a business account do I get that profile visit bar at the top. But yes, this is where you build your brand. Often your name of your Instagram account is going to be the same as your farm name. So mine is Raleigh's Hillside Farm. And then you get to also write out your name. So some people write out their farm name. Some people would write like Lauren and Kyle Rudersdorf, me and my husband. I've thought about switching to that just so people see both the farm name and our names somewhere on this account, because right now this doesn't say our name anyway, which is kind of funny. And then we've got kind of like the really boiled down version of our mission statement that we're a husband and wife team passionate about building community through agriculture. And we're always hustling organic veggies. We love talking about them, selling them, cooking them, everything. And then I've got a call to action. I've got my location here, which actually I could probably take down because I converted to business and now I have that here. So maybe I would take that down. And then I have a direct action that I want them to do. One thing about, just one little tip that maybe you guys don't know, there's this website called Bitly, B-I-T-L-Y. If you go to Bitly, you can put really long, clunky URLs in, and it'll shoot out a shorter URL that's a lot cleaner. So when you have to show a link here, this is only like 10 characters as opposed to being like this long, like Raleigh's Hillside Farm /CSA/sign up/mumbo jumbo, because I made it through a Google Doc. So you can put this huge, long, complicated URL into Bitly, which is I think bitly.com, or maybe just you search Bitly, I don't know, you'll find it. And it'll shoot out a URL that's unique to you, that's shortened. So that can be useful for a lot of things, but I like that here because it's just cleaner than having this big, like 2-line long URL, which is what our sign-up form would be. It's good to use emojis in your little blurb, even though they're silly. It just kind of, it breaks up the text. It makes it a little more fun. You can use them in place of words, which is also good because your profile is limited in the number of characters that you get. But yeah, when people find you randomly, however they find you, this is often the first place they come. So this should look as nice as your website looks. Like you should have a mission or a summary of who you are that's really short and clean and tells people like what you're about right away. It's also really good to have a logo up here. We just got a new logo, so ours is there now. And how you do that, you cannot have a PDF because PDF and Instagram won't talk, but you can tell your graphic designer, whoever made it, to convert it to a JPEG, and then it'll be an image, and then you'll just click on edit profile, and it'll ask what photo you want to put in for your profile picture. But if you have a logo, it should be here. If you don't have a logo, a photo that is really identifiable for your farm would be the second choice. So this photo I have on like all of my marketing materials. So while we were getting a new logo made, I had this because I knew people saw that photo and they thought of my farm. But this should be some, or maybe a picture of, you that's really recognizable, you out in the field, but something that is very specifically you that people will identify with. I think that is pretty much everything there. Call to action I already talked about. I think you should always have a call to action with a little like sign up for I think it says now on mine, sign up for CSA now, or CSA sign up is at 70% or something. But I always have something that when they see it, they're like, oh, they're selling seedlings. Oh, they want me to join their email list. Like something that tells people, or like if we get really, really big press, I might put that there, but I usually won't. I don't want to put a good article there about me more than I want people to sign up for my CSA. So you have to kind of weigh the pro and con, but the one thing you really want people to do should go here. And maybe even tell them what it is so that they know when they see this bit.ly, I don't know what this is, you're going to need to tell them, like, this is how you sign up for my CSA. I think that's everything about the profile, unless there's any questions about that.
Is there a place you have these buttons called email or directions that you insert, it'll just prompt you to add that?
Yep. So when you convert to a business account, it'll ask you some extra questions. And if you don't list them, I think that just doesn't show up. Like if you only have your address and nothing else, it'll just have a blue bar that says directions. But this here, this edit profile, this is how you'll do any of the, there's not a ton of options. It's like, what's a website? What's your profile? And it like 150 characters or less. What's your logo? What's your address, phone number? So it'll ask you those few things. Oh, yeah, it was, I think, yes. I think you scroll down to the bottom and it'll say convert to business or something. But yeah, it's through that. Sometimes it'll just ask you because it's creepy and it knows you're a business. But I think that it's through there. The other thing I forgot to say about the business account is that this promote thing here, this is just like boosting posts in Facebook. And you can only do it if you're a business account. You cannot pay to have reach unless you have a business account. So that's one other reason. I'm not sure. Can you set up as a business right from the beginning? Right. Oh, yes, yeah. But when you set up an account, I think it always sets you up individual and you have to convert. I might be wrong about that. Yeah. So I think, I mean, for me, I set up Raleigh's Hillside Farm as a personal account first because the business thing didn't exist, so I had to convert. But I think you might still have to set it up. You don't anymore? Okay. Yeah. And it was a business right off the, okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. That's awesome.
Can you, maybe, you know, can you, well, so I have one, but I started it as personal and it's business now and I only use it as the farm, but I just started it, you know, like, I'd rather have the name, can I change the name of my account?
Mm-hmm. You can.
It's just all personal stuff, but I don't want to just, I don't want to start a new account.
Yep, you, as long as that is available, sorry, the question was, can you change the name of your account once you've already created it? I'm pretty sure yes, because I've seen some, I've never done it, so I'm not certain, but I've seen some other farmers that I know who've changed from being, Raleigh's Hillside Farm to Lauren Rudersdorf. So if your name is pretty unique, you probably could. So you would do that. Oops. You would do that here too. You can definitely change this here, but I think you can even change it up here. Like you can actually, this right here, I should have explained that right away. That's your handle. So that's how people tag you. You should be able to change that within the edit profile. Yep. Yep. Yeah, I think a lot. So for Soil Sisters, we do a shared account and everybody has access to it. And that's like 15 people. So I think a lot of people can access it. Yeah, and like she was saying before, if you do have a personal and a business one, you don't have to log out anymore, which is really good. You used to have to. You can just toggle between them. So this will have a little like arrow button and you can go down and it'll show you all your accounts. So if you're logged into 2 or 3 or whatever, you can just switch between them really easily. Any other questions about the profile? And so these are just some really great profile examples. The other thing to note about your profile is that you want your photos to kind of go together. You want, when someone looks at your website, there to be some, or when they look at your Instagram, you want there to be some consistency. That just kind of goes back to branding and having like a strong image. So I mean, you see here, all these colors are kind of similar. All these colors are kind of similar, and it's telling a clear story. The easiest way to do that is just using consistent filters. We'll go through posting and how to add filters, but just because one filter makes a picture look good one time, makes one look good another time, like it gets confusing if one photo has super vibrant colors and another one is like a sunset filter and it's really dull. And then one's black and white. You can mix it up a little, but every once in a while, just look at your profile as a whole and just see if it looks consistent or if it looks, again, really confusing. Consistency is really good. But yeah, so calls to action, there's emojis, the profiles are broken up. She not only says like what she does, host of this podcast, she's a photographer, but she also talks about like something she's really passionate about, body positive babe. Like she's always promoting like healthy, looking at your body in a healthy way. So she's got that in there. You can put things outside of like what your farm does. You can put fun tidbits about you in there. Yeah. It could be that you have an old Android. There should be a little symbol on your keypad. And it might be a different. Mine is a little, my emoji button looks different when I'm within social media, but there should be other options. Because it should show up on your keypad just like it does when you text. Any other questions about profile setup? So then how do you find people? This goes back to that, how do you build community? This is how Instagram says that you discover people. It says that you'll go to this button and you'll scroll through all their suggestions and you'll choose those people. That's not really how I follow people. That is a way that you can find people. That's going to be hard to target in to the audience you want, which is likely a local audience. So for me, I like a lot of the people, I follow back a lot of the people who follow me. I use hashtags, which we'll talk about in a little bit, to find people a lot. Like there's some local hashtags like hashtag Be Madison or hashtag Madison, Wisconsin. People who are local are using those hashtags, so it helps me find people within my audience area. Or I honestly just when I go to cool places, I almost always look up if they have an Instagram and I start following it, because if something about going to that place captivated me, I bet they have an Instagram that I'm going to enjoy and like going to have the kind of followers that I'm going to be interested in. So for me, I discovered people pretty organically. I started with really just following farmers and friends and then seeing who they followed, being like, oh, this is a cool business. I didn't know about them. And then I start following that. So you might build your audience kind of slowly, and that's okay. Towards the end, I'm going to give you, I think there's like 30 different people you might want to follow. So I've got some female farmers, some organic farmers, and then some organizations that are local that you might want to follow just to kind of help you get started. Because if you're only following 5 people, it's going to be pretty hard to build community. So you want to be following some more people and using them to engage with new people. But so this is the place that you will search for people up here. Yeah. Yeah, no worries, no worries. No, I don't. I usually go, so Instagram, oh, the question was, do I just automatically follow back everyone who follows me? I don't. Some people who are like big on audience building and they're trying to build a national brand maybe would. Instagram's funny because it's like any other social media, there are some spammers. So there's some people who are just following you because they want you to follow them back. And I want organic reach. I want to build a community of people who I want to be following. I want my community on Instagram to look like my community in real life. It's people who I'm excited and engaged and interested in. So I might click on their account. Usually if it says farm in the name, I do follow them back immediately because I'm like, cool, a farmer liked me. I want to like them. I want to see what they're doing. But if the name doesn't have farm in it, I'll click on it and see like, oh, is their feed interesting to me? Yes. Okay, I'll follow them. Is it like about fitness and I don't really care that much? Probably not. So I kind of do it on a case-by-case basis. I also I might get a ton of follows in a week, and that was a busy week, and I don't look at any of their accounts. I don't follow any of them just because I'm busy. So it's kind of whatever you have time for. Yes. Oh, totally. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And because I didn't follow some of my members at first, they just followed me, and then their names kept popping up in comments. I was like, why am I not following them? Like, I should know what they're doing. So definitely, if you recognize CSA member names, I would absolutely follow them. And again, that goes back to what do you want Instagram to be for you, and what do you want your community to be? If you want it to be a community of local businesses, local supporters, friends, then maybe be semi-exclusive. Like, don't just follow everyone who doesn't kind of fit some of those criteria of what you're looking for. Did you have a question, Beth? Oh, cool, good. Any other questions about discovering people? One of the easiest way to discover people is through hashtags, which we'll talk about later, and that's a wonderful, wonderful way to find people. And then these are your notifications, as I talked about before. It's this little heart down here. You click on it, and you'll see everyone who has liked or commented on things. I'll check this a few times a day because best practice is if someone's commenting on your stuff, especially if they're asking you a question, you should respond back. Instagram, again, it's all about kind of just having community and engaging how you would in normal life. Like if someone is really excited about something you're doing, it's weird not to say something back. Like if they're really excited, you should either thank them or tell them where you got the idea from or whatever. It's a two-way street. So when people are engaging with your content, you want to be at least responding and possibly engaging with their content, because if there's something that they're really liking about what you're doing, it's likely you'll like what they're doing. And then if you do have promotions, like if you're doing those boosted posts, they'll show up here, and you can click on them and kind of see the activity of those as well. An interesting thing about boosted posts on Instagram is now that Instagram and Facebook are owned by the same company, person, whatever, you can cross promote at the same time. So you can boost a post, you can click in either platform, and when you boost a post, it'll ask if you want to boost in both platforms. So you can have the same exact image and text going out on both. I haven't done it yet, again, because my audiences are slightly different, but if yours are pretty similar, it's an effective, efficient way to kind of hit everyone with the same image at one time. Yeah. Any questions about this? Notifications, that's a pretty basic one. And then this is how you actually create content. So you're going to click on that this little square down here to post content, and it's going to kind of walk you through these three screens. The first thing that you'll do is you'll choose an image. Probably when you download the app or when you start posting, it'll ask if you want to connect to your photo gallery. You definitely do. That makes your life a lot easier because you can either post from your own library or you can take a photo in the moment or a video in the moment. I'm sure some people are doing that, but I'm always posting from my library because it is really difficult to take a really good photo in the moment, and it's automatically good enough to put in Instagram. So I'm just kind of taking pictures of everything and then posting what seems right at the right time. So definitely connect it to your photo library. Another thing that I do is that this is the first time I did it, but last winter I downloaded all of my best of images from the year from 2017, put a folder on Google Drive, and then if I'm like, oh, I really want to promote my seedling sales, I haven't gotten a good picture of seedlings grown up yet, I really need a strong image, I'll go back through my own collection and pull it over to my library, and then I can upload that. And for Instagram posts, strong imagery really matters. There's this thing called stories. We'll talk about it later. It doesn't matter the quality as much. When you're posting something for someone's news feed, the quality does matter. It doesn't need to be staged. It doesn't need to be beautifully curated, but it does need to be good. It needs to be not fuzzy. It needs to have semi-good composition, semi-good colors. Luckily, produce and fields and farmers, I think, are always beautiful. So it's not super hard to get a strong image. But just make sure it's not fuzzy. Make sure it's semi-centered, just kind of basics of photo maintenance. And I think that.
Do you edit your pictures in your photo library on your phone before you?
I don't.
Edit them right in Instagram?
I edit all my photos right in Instagram because usually mine are a coloring issue that I can adjust within Instagram. If you need to crop, sometimes it's good to crop outside first, but I do everything in here just because it's faster and it's easier. And so then, yeah, part two, what Marie was talking about is you will edit your photo. So there's two ways that you can edit. This actually took me a silly amount of time to notice, but you have a filter, so you can do this preset, here's some cool color filters, and if there's a filter you can scroll through, there's a whole bunch of them. If there's one that you feel really speaks to your brand that looks good every time with your images, use a filter every time. But for me, I actually like to edit my images, so I'll use this Clarendon filter. So if you click on a filter and then click on it a second time, it'll let you adjust the intensity of the filter. So when you click on it, it's at 100%, which sometimes can distort the colors a little bit and be really wacky. So I'm using this filter all the time for all my images, but a lot of times I'll dial it down to like a 15 out of 100 because that was just too vibrant. That was just too much. You can also use a filter and edit your image. You can do both things with an image. So once you choose a filter, you can go to this edit screen, and it'll give you a whole bunch more choices of cropping, switching alignment, boosting the saturation, which essentially just means boosting the color, boosting the brightness. So if you have a really dark image, you might want to boost the brightness. If you're in the greenhouse and it's crazy sunny, you might want to lower the brightness. But so yeah, if you hit this edit, you can do a lot of really basic editing things you could do in like Photoshop really quickly, really simply, right within the platform. And again, I know some really big Instagram people are going to Photoshop, taking strong images, making them even stronger, and then importing them. We don't have time for that. So there's a lot of really good editing filters right within here that I'm using. But again, try and be semi-consistent with the kind of filters you're using. Because if you see even here, this is a really bright, vibrant filter. Our brand is really bright and vibrant. That's something we like have in our keywords. That's something that we are really excited about. This is like a little more like rustic. And if you have a more rustic brand, this might be better. If you're kind of old school, you might use a black and white. But again, try and be kind of consistent because jumping all over the place in your images, it's just when they look at your profile, it's kind of confusing like who you are. Consistency is good. You want people to look through their homepage and stop because they're like, oh, I know this is a Raleigh's Hillside photo almost before they even look at the name. And using consistent filters will help you do that. And then this is where you create your content. This is the place where you tell your story. So here, you're going to write a caption. The thing that's really interesting about Instagram right now is that people are starting to tell their story a lot more. They're doing more of this like almost pseudo mini blogging within Instagram. And people really like it. You don't need to do it with every post. You don't need to tell a 3-paragraph story with every post. But once, best practice, I would say once every couple of weeks, tell just a little bit of a longer story of why you do what you do, why you love farming with your spouse, why you love raising animals, why you love CSA as a business model. Those things just help your audience like understand you a lot better. We do a lot of day-to-day posting. So like, look, we're in the greenhouse, we're working on X. Look, we're in the field, we're working on X. And that's really fun, and that is totally fine a lot of the time. But telling a little bit more of a story is really going to get you higher engagement, you'll notice. But it's just going to share your story, which is the main reason I want farmers to use Instagram more, is that I think there's a lot of people out there on Instagram all the time sharing their story, and I think our stories are really powerful and really important. And I think using Instagram to tell your story well it's really valuable to the food system generally, helping people not only see how food is grown, but see like this is why we're doing what we're doing. It's tough and this happened, and it's good to have that. And determining your brand will help you know what that caption is going to look like. Like, is your brand hopeful? Is your brand more truthful and like tell it how it is? Are you funny? Are you not funny? Like, what's your brand? When you tell that story, use that voice. And that voice should be your own voice, but just kind of think about if you're having a really, really crappy day, which we all have, like if your tone of your farm is generally pretty hopeful and optimistic, maybe wait till tomorrow to tell the hard story of your farm. Because it's good to tell the honest, authentic story of your business. But the mood of your brand also, like it should have a little bit of consistency. And so one tip, if you're going to be writing really big posts here, that I tell people, because sometimes your phone dies or the app, you just close it and you forget and then you don't finish, and then this huge long thing you're writing is gone. I, for long posts, often write it in my notes, which it's an Apple app, but I'm sure there's a similar one on Android. So if you have like a notes app, I write it out in a note, and then it auto saves. And then maybe I post later that night once I have time to actually edit it, but that's where I post my longer things first, or where I write my longer things first so I don't lose them. But again, that's for storytelling. Sometimes you can just say like, hey, our farm was featured in this awesome Soil Sisters article. That can be the whole post. It doesn't need to be storytelling or super brandy every time. But it's good to do those from time to time. It's also good to introduce yourself from time to time because you're gaining new followers all the time. And your profile only has like 2 sentences about who you are. So just saying like, hey, we're Kyle and Lauren Ridgersdorf. We started this farm 6 years ago. We lease on family land. This is the story of like how we came here. Those are really nice too. Again, I probably do that once every 2 or 3 months. I don't do those often, but they're really good to kind of help people understand the broader story. And then as far as cultivating an audience and growing like a community within Instagram, You're going to do that within this post screen a lot because you can tag people, which is putting that @ sign and putting their handle. You can use hashtags that are really specific to your location or the things you're excited about. You can add a location, like an actual, like anywhere you are if your location services are on, which I know that that's bad for some reasons, but I always have my location services on. So if I'm at Cowan Quince, it's going to list Cowan Quince as a location, and I can be like, hey, I'm at my favorite business, and I'm going to put that I'm here so everyone knows this awesome plate of food is from this awesome place. Um, you can regram content, which we'll talk about later. So there's all of these ways that you're building community and engagement two places. One, on that news feed that you're scrolling through, and here in your post. Again, not every single post is going to have all of those elements, but occasionally some posts should have all those elements and really connecting you into your broader community.
Quick question.
Yeah.
You said tagging people, the hat symbol.
The @
Oh, the hat.
Yep. And then if you type in the @ and then you start to type their name, it should come up if you already follow them. But that's another good thing that has happened to me where I'm like mid long story and I realize I don't actually follow this person, I just respect them, and then I can't remember their handle, it doesn't pop up. If I do that in notes, are you waving at me? No. If I do that in notes, I can go into Instagram, search their name, make sure I get it correctly, copy it over. But yeah, if you type in the @ and then start to type their name, it'll come up from a list and you can tag them that way. You can also tag within the actual image here. So that's tag people. So you can tag in text, which is up here in the caption with @ followed by their name. Or you can tag people here. You can literally click on here Lisa or Chris or Jen. I can click on their face just like in Facebook and I can tag them within the image. I'm currently doing this strategically with brands. Like every time I have any pictures of me using my tractor, I'm tagging them because who knows, maybe they'll want to partner with me one day. I don't know. So I'm a happy tagger. Anyone who's like a part of this image, I'm generally tagging them because I think that's an effective way to build community and draw attention, because when people are tagged, they get a notification and they're like, cool, this person keeps tagging me. They must be really excited about that tractor they bought. I'm going to give them a free potato digger. Wouldn't that be cool? Is that how it works? So I'm just like tagging people all the time because I think it's really fun and it's worked really well for me to build community. So these are kind of my 3 points. I went over most of them for telling a good story within Instagram. You want to tell the story behind the picture. Use strong images. The strong images don't have to be from that moment in time. If you're telling a story of like what we got done at the farm this week, you're going to want photos from that week. But like for us, we're selling veggie shares right now. I don't have pictures of veggie shares right now. So I can use the same image of veggies last August to show my members what they're receiving, this winter to promote signups, and maybe in April because I'm really excited and ready for the season to get started. So you can use some of the same images. One image can tell a million stories. So don't feel like you need to have good images of everything all the time. As long as you're out there taking photos occasionally, you can you'll have a story to tell. And you can often go back through your photos, and if you're feeling a certain mood and you're like, oh, I really want to write a post about like me and my husband working together because we had a really like hard thing we went through and we got through it and we feel really strong, and I just like want to tell Instagram like this is a part of working with your partner. Cool, I'm going to scroll through, find a really good picture of my husband and I out in the fields. So that picture that could have been us planting rhubarb is now telling a story about my relationship. So don't feel like you have to have a photo from that moment all the time. Those are nice too, but you can use old photos to tell a current story. And do a lot more than ask for things. This goes back to that marketing and building an audience. If you want to sell CSA shares through your Instagram, don't just post a picture of your box every post saying buy CSA share. No one's going to like your Instagram feed. No one's going to engage with your Instagram feed. They want to know you. They want to know your story. That's what Instagram is all about. So make sure you're posting, maybe 3 posts during the week about what's going on, anything. And then maybe you ask them, hey, you do it strategically in a way that doesn't sound super salesy, because Instagram is all about authenticity, and people, if every post you have is about buying something, they're going to stop following you. Yeah.
I've noticed with my business account that the second I put a picture of me up,
Yeah.
my kids up, or my husband up,
Yeah.
I get way more interaction than just a picture of like a crazy hair tree that I've started training.
Yeah. So Marie just said that she's noticed that whenever she puts a photo of herself up, there gets way more engagement. That's the thing. I can't remember if I talk about it later or not, but that's just true. People like faces. Like they want to know the person behind the business, and things that are super interesting to us. Like I took a picture of rhubarb and I knew no one would care about the rhubarb plant. So I put it in my story because I thought the roots were super interesting. I've never seen rhubarb roots before. I'm not going to put a picture of that up. I'm going to put a picture of me and my husband digging the rhubarb together. It took me a couple of years to get comfortable with that. I don't love getting my photo taken. I don't love throwing my photo out there all the time. I don't do it every post by any means, but you know, at least once a month, you should have a photo of you or your kids or your dog or like something that's like a creature of the farm. It shouldn't just be the fields and the produce all the time. Um, and that gives you a chance at that last one. Introduce yourself often. And I already said that, but you know, once every few months, just make sure you're like introducing people to who you are and what you're about, and that loop in your broader vision, your broader mission, because that's what people are going to remember. So what inspires good content? You beat me to it, Marie. Smiling faces there at the bottom. Personal photos are literally always welcome and loved on Instagram. You can put up a terrible, you think terrible photo of yourself, and it's going to get a bigger reach than pictures of produce sometimes, because people, they want to see you. They're excited to see you. But so these are things when you're posting content, if you can't, you know, maybe there's nothing happening day to day on the farm. Maybe it's the winter. The winter's the hardest time to post as a farmer. Here's some other kind of things that inspire good content. So there's a million national days of celebration. Every day is something different. If you're like, oh, I haven't posted for like 4 days, you can just literally Google National Days of Celebration, see what's coming up. If there's National Puppy Day coming up, be like, cool, I'm gonna get a good picture of my dog ready so I can post about this. So those are good just when you can't really like think of anything good. It's probably good rule of thumb to know, like, I mean, National CSA Day, I do know that one, but like National Farmer Day, National whatever, maybe you should just have those on your calendar so you know that's a good way to tell your story. Themed Instagram hashtags. There's all these. You could Google that too, and you'll find a whole darn bunch of them. Throwback Thursday, Selfie Sunday, Monday. I don't know. There's like one for every day of the week or several for every day of the week. So if you can't think of anything good and you want to just share an old cool picture from the farm, you can do a Throwback Thursday. You can totally do a dream for the future picture, a picture of like a piece of land that soon is going to have a shed on it. Like that's okay because you're going to tell the story in it. Like the picture needs to be, again, clear, but it doesn't have to be of something. It can be of a dream, and then you write about that dream. Reminiscing on the past, using old photos. Current news, something might have just happened that was really, really interesting and relevant to farming. You can't link to the articles because Instagram's bad linking, but you can share a photo of your farm that like alludes to some really big current news. Collaborations, I do a lot of those where I'll like work with other food bloggers. So I'm, you know, maybe I'm regramming a photo of a dish they made with my produce because I don't have any of my own photos from that day. Photos both before and after events to promote events coming up and to summarize how awesome your event was after. Smiling faces. These are all kind of things. You think of Instagram, you think of posting day to day. You think of, oh, I forgot to take a picture today. I can't post today. You can always do some of these things. And you should mix it up a little bit because if you're only doing day to day, people get bored with that too. So it's good to do kind of a combination of these things. And then I just have one really quick slide about telling your story because again, it's like a personal mission of mine to help farmers tell their stories because I just think our stories are strong and we don't always have enough time to tell them, but we should try, and Instagram's a really good tool for that. So this one here, this goes back to branding, but you know your elevator pitch, know your story. Who are you? What are you about? Why are you doing what you're doing? Practice it. Like you probably say it all the time to members in emails or when you meet people, but know your story, fine tune it, develop keywords and themes. That's going to become your brand. So for my husband and I, we graduated from college. There was not a good job market. We really, really wanted to work together because we were falling in love. We were realizing what a good partnership, what a good team we were. So we started our farm literally because we didn't want to get real jobs and not be like near each other, which is ridiculous, but like still our story. So love is like a keyword we use all the time because our farm was like literally built on love. So we use that all the time. So think about those, like, what's your story? What are those words? And just repeat them, use them a lot. It's just good branding. It helps people know who you are and remember who you are and not get confused. And, you know, adjust and evolve because that's all going to change too. Like, oh, now when I have kids, maybe it'll look different and my farm will be about something else, but know that and keep sharing that. And that's just my little, like, why farmers should be doing it. Everyone's out there using a lot of our stories anyway in their marketing schemes, and we should be owning them. We should be using them because they come from us and they're better when they're coming from us. All right, so post grain, we went over kind of what all these elements are. We really talked about how you fill this in, what you use to put that in. Now, the last thing you want to put in a post, not always, but often, is hashtags. So what is a hashtag? How many people know? Raise your hand if you know what a hashtag is and like you know why it exists in the world. That's good. That's helpful. No, that makes me happy. Okay, good. because I have like 3 slides on it. So hashtags are, someone at a presentation once told me that the internet is just like billions of people shouting at each other, begging to be heard. Hashtags are how it stays organized. So a hashtag is like, it's how you dial into a community, it's how you connect with people. So hashtags seem silly, but they're going to get you what you want when you're using this platform. They they're used across platforms. They're really only effective on Twitter and Instagram, I would say. You can use them in Facebook. No one searches for community in Facebook the way they search for community in Instagram. So when you're hashtagging things, you are connecting to all of the other pieces of content that are also connecting to that hashtag. So for example, hashtag Women Farm is like a campaign right now, owned by, I don't remember who, but someone started it. And so a lot of times when I have a picture of me looking really, really strong out on the farm, I'm going to hashtag this. And I have a ton of female farm followers, female farmer followers, because I use that hashtag all the time. So other women farmers who see that hashtag on other people's posts will click on it. You'll get this, it'll look like your newsfeed, but it's just a stream of a hashtag. So you'll find other images that connect to that same word or phrase. So they're used across all of Instagram to connect people. Sometimes through a marketing plan, sometimes they just take on a life of their own. So I use hashtag farm life, hashtag farm love, hashtag organic farmer, and all those things. They'll get me new followers because those are people who are doing those things and they're interested in that. I do hashtag eat local because I'm hoping that some of my customers are using that and they're finding me through that. That's why I'm using those geographical ones too, like hashtag be Madison, hashtag Madison, Wisconsin, because people who are just like out there every day loving Madison life and hashtagging things about their Madison life they're clicking on that. And in Instagram, you can now follow hashtags just like you can follow people. So when you're looking through your news feed, you're not just going to see photos of people you know, you're now going to see photos from hashtags you chose to follow, which is a huge way to get your reach out there. When you go to that discover, that little magnifying glass at the bottom, if you search by hashtag, and this is new, that's like brand new. That's only been happening for a month maybe, the following hashtags. Before you just had to click through and then when you clicked on a hashtag, it would show you a whole feed of that. Now you can actually follow them and they'll show up in your news feed. Yeah, it's really actually wonderful. And so if you're doing, I don't know, if you're doing a really special variety of tomato you're really excited about that you want to see how other people are growing it, you can hashtag this variety of tomato and it's probably a hashtag. Is it all her? And so Chris hashtags similar to how I do. I use like half real hashtags and then I use half things that I want to become things, which is not an effective way to use hashtags. You can do that and it's fun. And if you're trying to create like an awesome, strong following of Driftless Wisconsin, then definitely do it and hopefully other people will catch on. But those actually catch on slowly. So if you're trying to engage, you should use existing hashtags. Do you have a question?
That was exactly it. I wondered like how random is this? Am I just telling them stuff like I love this tomato variety? So you're actually actively searching out those tags so that people are already.
Yep. And sometimes did I put this here? I don't think I did. Sometimes hashtags are just a fun way to add more to your story. So like you take a picture of your favorite tomato variety, you can totally say hashtag I love this tomato variety. Like some people do it that way too. It can be fun and it can be cute. It's not good for cultivating an audience and a community. And I still do them sometimes just because they're fun. And like this photo, I don't think it's going to gain a lot of traction anyway. And I want to like make this joke. I'm going to make it in a hashtag. So people do that too. Absolutely. They're the most effective for growing community when you find the ones that speak to you and your community and you use them. How do you find them? You find them because people you follow will start using them. It'll start to make sense the more you use them. So again, and I probably use the same 20 to 30 for the farm and the same 20 to 30 for my food blog. And I probably should be looking for more if I really wanted to engage out there further. But generally I'm finding out because Chris Marion tagged them and some of them looked really cool. And I click and I'm like, oh, look at this amazing whole stream of amazing women farmers. Cool. I'm going to follow that hashtag now. I'm going to use that hashtag now. So that's kind of the basics. And then this is just an interesting thing for you to know is that there actually is your engagement will rise with more hashtags, not to a certain point. Usually if you use more than 10, I think they limit you to 30. If you use more than 30, they'll think you're spamming and they might shut down your account for a little while. So don't do that. I think that like, I mean, sometimes I use 2 because I just am not in a mood to use a lot. Sometimes I use none. They're really important early on to kind of grow your audience and find like-minded people. But 9 is kind of that sweet spot. Like 8 to 10 is a really good place of like, you're tagging to enough things that people are finding you, but not so many that it looks annoying or like you're trying too hard. You're just tagging, like, you probably have 8 things that are a real community you want to be part of. You probably don't have 30 things that you really want to be a part of. So use them strategically, use relevant hashtags when you can. And yeah, it's going to collate all those photos into one stream.
Why do people put the dots before their hashtag? So annoying, right?
Because they think it's less annoying. So the question was, why do people put the dots before they hashtag? So some people, everyone's using them. Everyone wants to build community on Instagram, but people who are actively trying to build like thousands of followers by the month, they're using super strategic hashtags, and they don't want it to, they want their content to shine. They want the hashtags because the hashtags connect people, but they don't want people looking at their hashtags. They want people looking at their content. Which another trick for that, I think I say it later on, but you can have your posts, so it's like your 2 sentences of your story, and you can put hashtags in the comments yourself. So I do that sometimes. Like if I have a really good long story about me and my husband, I don't want to crowd it up with hashtags, I'll comment on my own post with like 5 to 20 relevant hashtags. So they don't have to be in posts, they can be in comments. The only Google, so Facebook analytics are starting to be understood, and they're, or I guess the opposite, they're starting to get really mucky and not understood. Instagram, the analytics are getting a little more confusing. That means how people find your content. The one thing that is known about Instagram analytics is the more people who look at your, or the algorithm, sorry, the more people who look at your Instagram post in 30 minutes, the more reach your post will have. So if your post, you post it and it doesn't go anywhere, it might not go anywhere. So you want a lot of engagement fast, so you want to use hashtags right away. So you don't want to post your picture, you forgot to put hashtags, 4 hours later at night, add hashtags and comments, because it's probably not going to work the same way. They want content to, they want the content that gets spread quickly to spread further. They want the content that takes a long time to spread to not to reach as far. Yeah.
So along the lines of timing, is there a strategic time to post farm posts that people will see?
So if you become, the question was, is there a strategic kind of time to post farm posts? The general rule of thumb is people are on Instagram all day. You know, like lunchtime is good, after work is good because people are busy at work. But people are on Instagram all day. That can be narrowed down specifically to your farm and your audience by using that those little like bars at the top of the business account that I showed you. When you click on that, it'll show you just some really basic metrics about your audience. It'll show what posts are going the furthest, but it'll also show what time of day and what day of week. And for me, for some reason, I think Sunday and Monday was always super low. So I don't post my best content on Sunday, Monday. I don't follow it as closely as I should, because I think if you are tagging people and using good hashtags and are actively using Instagram in a community-oriented way, I think my posts are going to go somewhere. So I don't follow it that strategically, but in the beginning, it's not going to hurt you if it says, oh, Sunday, no one looks at your post. Maybe don't even post on Sunday, or maybe just post something less exciting on Sunday. Don't say, hey, sign up for our CSA on Sunday. Don't put your big flashy stuff on that day. So yeah, having a business account will show you some of those metrics. Another hashtag slide. Oh yeah, so how do you use the hashtags? And how do you find them? So do research and keep a list. That's the smartest way to use them. I have a rolling list in my head. That's probably not the most effective way to do it. I've heard some people, again, keep a note in their phone with like, these are my farm, Madison area, Wisconsin hashtags. They just keep a list of like 40 of the best ones they found right in their phone, and then when you're posting, you just be like, oh yeah, these are the 3 that are good for today. I'm going to use these ones. Do not copy and paste the same 30 hashtags into every single post. Again, Instagram will think you're spam, and they will shut you down for a while. But you want to find the hashtags that are powerful in your community, and those are always going to be changing. So when there's someone you really love, if you're following me and you are like, wow, she's using this, women who farm her, she's using these 3 like really powerhouse lady farmer hashtags. I like that. I'm going to follow those. So look at the hashtags the people you respect are using. That is a totally okay way to find hashtags. Find people who have a really good following and audience. So clearly they're using hashtags effectively, and look at some of those and pick out the best ones. So it'll take a little work the first month to kind of compile these ones that work for you. But take that little bit of time to figure out, what are your top 5, what are your top 10, what are 20 that you might use at certain points in time. And yeah, just kind of keep a rolling list either in your head or on your phone of those things. Quality over quantity is best, absolutely. Use the ones that are relevant to your audience and to your followers, and you're gonna have the best impact. Yeah, of course.
When you start tweeting hashtags, it will come up and tell you that tons of
Yeah.
people
Yep.
are using that. But then it's sure, should I use organic farm,
It's a great point.
farmer,
Yep.
farming? It'll tell you like which one
Yep.
the most posted.
When you put in a hashtag in organic, the one with the most follows and the most like activity will come up first. That's a great point. Yeah. Which is really helpful. And for me, I actually don't use that strategy just because I'm not concerned about overall reach. I'm concerned about reach in my communities. So it's good to have a couple of those really strong ones that go really far, like Farm Life, Farm Love. Those are national, lots of people are using them. But then my next 3 that I use are going to be kind of strategic for like women farmers or organic farmers or often regionally. I'm really trying to do regional hashtags the most I can. But yeah, avoid gimmicky hashtags like follow for follow. There's tons of those. Again, they'll think you're spam because you kind of are spamming. And the kind of people who follow you because you use hashtags like that, that's not an authentic audience. That's not the kind of community anyway. So I just think avoid those altogether. And Instagram algorithms do favor the use of specific and relevant hashtags. So if you're posting food porn, that's a really, really common one for foodies and for food bloggers. They're using it on almost every post. If you're using that on like a picture of your tractor, that's just not going to have as much reach because it's not relevant. So they are looking at relevance a little bit. So don't just use hashtags you know are super hot, even if they have nothing to do with what you're posting. I think that's my last one on hashtags. Any questions? Oh, here's some of the hashtag use. This might be helpful too. I know I showed you that bar graph that says 8 to 9 is the sweet spot. I still usually do 3 to 5 just because I don't have enough time to get a ton of them. And you'll see, I mean, these are bigger followings and they do some different things. So this is Modern Farmer. They do what Marie was saying, where they have like their content and then they put some dots. Some people put dots for like a really long time, which is just you hitting enter and then putting a dot and just to make your post longer. And then they've got some hashtags at the bottom. Traditionally, hashtags are going to be at the bottom. You're not going to be like, I love this hashtag farm life. People don't really use them as like part of the text. That gets confusing because it just makes it harder to read. So usually you have your story, you have your text. You might tag someone in text like, thanks for these great seeds, Seed Savers Exchange. You could put at Seed Savers Exchange right here. You'll tag people in text, but you won't usually use hashtags within the caption. It gets really confusing. So generally, all of these you'll see, all of the hashtags are totally at the bottom. But they have some different strategies. This is at the bottom just a few. This has these dots and then a whole bunch because she is a really big brand and she's trying to get tons of followers all the time. So she's on it. She knows which ones work, which ones don't. I don't think we need to do that. This is a woman building a blog trying to get millions of followers. We're not looking for millions of followers. We're looking for strategic engagement in our own local communities. So again, using 3 or 4, this is Jonna Perkins from Vermont Valley. She uses like 6 that she knows are really strong in her community and are cultivating the things that she wants. Don't feel like you need to be overwhelmed by them. 1 or 2 really strong, relevant hashtags are wonderful. 5 or 6 are a little better, but don't feel like you need to do a lot because some people are doing a lot. Does anyone have questions about hashtags as a concept or how to use them or any of that?
I do have one question, but it goes back a couple slides to the posting screen or the new posting. And there's the part where if you have a Facebook account for your business, you can slide over.
Yep.
Is that something that you do manually every single time you post, or can you set it for the default?
So I recommend not setting it as a default. You can technically. I manually do it. Sometimes I don't even do it at the time. I'll do it later. The reason I don't suggest you automatically do it is because so it does post for you. That's great. Pretty much 90% of my content that's on Facebook now is shooting over from Instagram because I'm more active on Instagram. But that being said, not every post I put on Instagram is a good Facebook post. So sometimes I won't do it because I'm just like, this is what my Instagram followers are excited about. Or this formatting is going to look really stupid on Facebook, and because Facebook allows me to tag an event, I would rather align it a different way. So I choose for each post. I do choose yes for most of them, but then sometimes you'll want to edit things too, because even though they're owned by the same company, the way you tag people with this at, it'll show up like that in text in Facebook. It won't tag them. You'll want to manually go in and adjust it. And you might want to delete the hashtags from the Facebook post because hashtags don't have a lot of weight in Facebook. And like I say, link and profile a lot. Like if I'm posting about signing up for my CSA, I'll put a little thing at the bottom that says like link and profile to sign up. But in Facebook, I can just put the link in the post, which I can't do in Instagram. So I usually will post to both at the same time, but I will usually go to Facebook and edit something. So if you don't have time for both, then maybe just do the Instagram in the moment, and then when you get home at night, you can share it. Because you can share it at any time too. Yeah. Mhm. I don't, because I think on Instagram the square is starting to matter less and less. And if I do crop it to be the square was probably the strongest part of the image. So if it ends up being a square in Facebook, I'm okay with it. I don't usually format the photo. You totally could. And if you're using images, that's another reason that you might not share it over automatically, because you're like, this photo looks good on Instagram. It would look better on Facebook this way. You might sometimes switch it, especially if you're using like a Canva, like a little designed image that has some text. It might look different on both platforms. It might block stuff out. So these are, I'll send this out again, but these are my favorite, just real quick, favorite farm hashtags. I mentioned, I think, most of them.
So is Modern Farmer, that's from the magazine?
It isn't necessarily.
Okay.
No.
That magazine kind of makes me crazy.
It's getting better.
Is it?
Yeah.
Like everything doesn't cost $8,000.
And their web content's really good, actually. But it's less obnoxious than it was like 5 years ago. I know. It's getting a little better. No, that's mostly like young farmers and beginner farmers. Okay. And then I've got some local ones as well. My favorite is My Midwest is Showing. I think that's funny. But I won't use that for anything that's in Wisconsin. I'll usually use that for something that's semi-funny of like, look at this, me on my farm, this is so Wisconsin. Then I'll use that. So again, you'll be a little strategic with how you use them. But some, be Madison, Wisconsin, you can use those on any post because you're a farm that exists within the Madison area. If you're targeting Madison, you can use that anytime. And occasionally, again, you can Google to learn some of these things, but occasionally there's like contests too that run through hashtags. So they might be fun to be a part of because they might gain you followers that are excited about a certain thing. All right, so anatomy of a great Instagram post. I've got like 5 examples just kind of to walk through everything we talked about because I know it was a lot. So this is a great example of reusing an old content for a relevant thing that's happening. So this is a photo of me and a couple of my soil sisters at Cow and Quince. I've got people to tag in the photo, so I tagged her as Linda D, her as Bethany Wright and Winterfell Acres, me as the farm and Leek and the Carrot because I have 2 handles. This is an old photo from summer, but I posted it in March because I was in New Orleans, so I'm not going to be taking photos from where I am, but it's International Women's Day, so I want to show a strong picture of women. I've got people to capture, friends to put in the caption, Soil Sisters Wisconsin, just because saying that I'm grateful for them and my strong women. Have some relevant hashtags, just a few. Hashtag female farmer, hashtag women who farm, hashtag lady farmer, hashtag lady farmer emoji, because that's one which is really cute. And then I tell a little bit of my story. So I talk about my mom who raised me on the farm and how strong she was. So that's this is one of my favorite posts, one of my like best examples. You're not going to do a post like this every time. I don't do a post like this every time. I do a post that good like once every few months, but you should try to do a post that's good sometimes that like tells your story, connects to local friends, thanks your local community, uses good hashtags, tags where you are. So it really is like, this is who I am in a nutshell. These posts are really powerful, not just because you'll get followers, but because you'll really build community in the way you really want to build community. The only thing I did wrong is I'm sitting at Cow and Quince and I could have tagged them to give them some like, give them a shout out and I forgot. So that was bad, but I can go back and do that later. This is another one. This is photo from I think the day of. Have your worker shares and your employees, tell them it's okay for them to have their phone and to take photos. You can totally limit it because it can get out of control. But if there's like an hour a day, say, hey, if you want to take photos, you have to send them to me. I want them, but like you taking photos for 20 minutes could be really beneficial to my farm. How about the last 20 minutes of the day? It's okay to have your phone out. Because our worker shares gave us some awesome photos that we've used because especially during our CSA Harvest Day, even in summer, I'm not very good at remembering to snap photos because my hands are dirty or my hands are wet or whatever. So giving them limits, but telling them it's okay to take photos and use their phone occasionally has worked really, really well for us. There's an example of a photo of us because people like photos of you, and it talks about some of the real authentic stuff because I think Instagram more and more people don't want the staged fake stuff. They really don't. That was trending for a while, super staged, super curated. People are really wanting more authentic content. So this is talking about like, hey, my husband and I had a huge fight last night because there's big pressure on the farm and it was awful. And then like, this is us today. This is what working with your spouse looks like. Like there's a lot of ups and downs. And I talk about that because that's a part of my story I really want to share and I want to put out there into the world. But for me, we're really, really positive all the time. We're really hopeful all the time. That's our brand. So I'm ending with a really, like, I'm ending strong. So sometimes I'll put photos of like diseased tomatoes because I want to share the whole story, but I'm not like, woe is me about them. I'm ending hopeful and strong because that's my brand. So knowing your brand, knowing your tone, using it consistently is really, really good. And then how to share opportunities. This has worked exceptionally good for us this year. I'm not sure why. I think I'm just getting a like relevant enough like following in my content area. We had 3 worker share positions we wanted to fill. They were posted online. I posted them on Facebook. No one was really responding. I described them here really briefly, like a sentence on each, like, hey, we want someone who's doing this, doing this, doing this. If you're interested, direct message me and I'll send you more info. The more info I sent them was just the website link, but for some reason or another, and I did some relevant hashtags in the comments, you can't see them here, I got like 30 requests from people who wanted to do these positions, which I'd never expected in a million years. But I did like hashtag Madison, Wisconsin, hashtag I think Madison local food. Like I just like found a bunch of great Madison area specific, and I got a ton of interest for worker shares. So this is a great way to share opportunities. It's an old photo from the summer before because it was in March. How are you going to show worker shares in March? I don't have them yet. Friends a tag. So then, my friend Nate or my employee Nate gets tags in it. He might send it out because he's like, cool, look at this cool picture of me floating around. I'm going to regram it and like help spread the word for him. So that's a really good way to share like opportunities at DM. Direct message me. That's what that means. So then you'll have to look and make sure. And I checked a lot because a lot of those weren't showing up because there were people who followed me, so I didn't follow them. But that's really a really good way. Sometimes people just don't want to go to your website and they want to be like, hey, I want more info, or hey, I'm really interested. Here's my experience, and right away if they're going to be a good person or not. I wouldn't do it for employees, but for worker shares, it worked amazingly. And then this is what I do during the season always, like no matter what, I take a picture of my produce on Wednesday before I deliver the box. This is some of my best advertising. These photos I can use on everything. So yeah, this is an example of an in-season CSA post because I am doing a lot less posting in the summer because I'm busy. But I want to be like, hey, let's stop. Let's like celebrate the week. Let's not just talk about like, hey, the tomatoes are diseased. This happened. We got in a fight. All this. Everything's crazy. Look at this beautiful box of produce I put out. So that's really actually good for me and my Instagram following because it just encourages me to slow down and like appreciate what I'm doing. Then how to sell things. Again, old photo with relevant content. A lot of mine are. Talked about a lot of this stuff. But yeah, it's just saying like, here's what I'm doing. Here's why this is a good time to sign up. It's not just like, hey, sign up now. I talk about why April's a really good time to sign up because CSA farmers have a little more time. Our systems aren't in place yet. And I'm telling them like how signing up early is actually really beneficial. So using Instagram not only to promote my CSA, but to explain like, this is what my life looks like, and this is how you can help me more. Don't sign up in June. You should sign up in April. This is the right time to do it. You're strengthening the bond between farmer and consumer. So Instagram's awesome because you can tell a whole story in one post. And then how to promote partnerships and relationships. I do this a lot too. I'll snap photos of brands I work with, of people we sell to. We sell to this Saints Juice company in Madison because I think cross-promoting is just good. You tag someone, like we sell to them, our fennel is in that drink, I tag that drink. Next time they have a really beautiful pile of our produce laying around, they might take a picture of it and tag me. So it's kind of just, again, best practice in trying to build community like authentically. Just be excited about the things you're excited about and share them with the world. Like people will know if you're faking it. If you're excited about this juice because you're selling produce to them, tell everybody. It's never going to hurt to like tag and link to friends. Any questions about basic posting, storytelling, all that jazz? Yeah.
You said that you could rebrand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Jacob's really good at taking
Yep.
I don't know how.
I got it. That's my next thing, actually. I'll teach you how. Yep, it's an app. You want to use an app, ideally. It'll work a lot better. Any other questions about posting? Yeah, I'll explain what regramming means. Sorry, I've said that a couple times. All right, what else can you do? You can share others' content. You can create fun stories. You can link to Facebook. We actually already talked about linking to Facebook a lot, so I'm probably going to skip over that really quickly. But you can share others' content. Do you want to ask permission first, or you want to ask permission first? You don't want to use, I'm trying to get Kubota to be excited about me and like work together maybe in the future, but I'm never going to regram a beautiful picture of their tractor out in somebody else's field without asking them. So never regram huge brands without asking their permission. Never really regram anyone other than a very, very close friend without asking permission. That's just kind of best practice. So like, hey, this image was awesome. We worked together on this. Is it okay if I also post this? That's really nice to do. And I do regram sometimes really beautiful images of vegetables that aren't mine, and I ask the person, and usually they're super excited, even if I don't know them, because again, sharing content and tagging other people is how Instagram builds community. So generally, no one's going to say no, but it's just really good to ask. So.
If it's someone's, like Chris Mary,
Mm-hmm.
if it was, if it's for Chris Mary for state senate, do we need to ask Chris every time? I mean, do you ask her?
If you're promoting her, no.
Right.
Like, and it's a friend.
Okay.
So I think that's an exception because it's really a friend. If it was like a politician you support that you're not like super close with, probably. And I wouldn't ask every time, but say like, hey, I want to support you. They're gonna definitely say yes. I'm gonna post maybe 5 times throughout the election season because I love what you're doing for farmers. Would that be okay? They're gonna say yes, but I would ask. But like Chris, if you see them on a regular basis and you can consider yourself friends, it's better. If it's a gorgeous photo you took and you feel like they might be weird that you're using it, ask. Like just kind of use common sense on that one, I would say. We partner with we're partnering with this woman who's starting a flower farm because we're like going to be selling her flower bouquets. I'm pretty sure I could post any picture she does anytime. No questions asked. No big deal because we're intentionally cross promoting. So those are like the exceptions. But so how you do this, I'm really going to run through this because you'll get the slides. It will help you. It'll tell you everything that you need to do. But for reposting, you want to download this app called Repost for Instagram. This is what it's called in Apple because I have an Apple, but there's going to be a similar one for Android. But if it's the top one that says Repost, all of these will work essentially the same. I like the Repost the best. I like the way it looks the best. And then you will click on these 3 little dots. When you're within Instagram, it'll bring up this menu. You'll say copy link. Then you'll close Instagram. You'll open the Repost app that you just downloaded, and it'll show a list of everything you've regrammed. You'll click on the one that you want, and you'll choose some little specifications like where do you want that repost thing to show up. It'll give you an option to don't. Again, I say almost always put that in there. You're not confusing your readers because if the photo looks really different, they won't wonder why. And it's just best practice because you're cross-pollinating. It'll notify the person that you reposted. And then once you choose where you want that, you'll export it, copy caption, open in Instagram. It'll ask if you want to put it in a story or feed. We'll talk about story just in a second. Usually I'm doing this in a feed. And then it'll show up just as it does normally in your Instagram. So once you copy it to feed, it'll literally just like close the Repost app and it'll open Instagram. And then you'll proceed as usual. You'll put in a caption. If you hold the caption and press paste, you'll get their content of what they said, which is nice because it might just give some extra reference that otherwise wouldn't be there. But you put your text on top of the Repost content. Does that make sense? I know that was really fast.
I downloaded the app and I'm not seeing where the repost is. Is it open?
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. I can see later.
So you might have just missed this step. So once you open it, you probably don't have anything to repost yet. So you have to go to Instagram, find the image you want to repost, click on these little things, and then copy the link. And then Regram will just like shoot it into its brain somehow that I don't understand.
Okay. Got it.
But yeah, so you'll have to copy this link here to get there. I know that was fast, but that's essentially just one more way to build community, reposting content to people you're working with, people you're partnering with. Maybe a restaurant put a bunch of your greens on a pizza and it's really, really beautiful. Ask them if you can use it. They'll definitely say yes. Me like, look at this pizza that's available tonight and tomorrow at whatever restaurant. Tag them. That's how you build community. Slowly and surely on Instagram. You just use the relationships you have and you tag the people that you know and you do it naturally like you would in normal life. If you're excited about this pizza because it's featuring your stuff, you post them and you tag the correct people. So you use it just like you would use anything else. Yeah. That's why I always, the question was, is it obvious where the content came from? That's why I always leave this little symbol. So this little symbol here in the corner, it's got a little Regram logo that people who use Instagram enough just know what that logo means. And then it'll say the name of the user. And then if you paste, so you're copying the caption, if you paste it into the content here, then it'll also say like reposted from, and it'll give that context. So I do both of those things because I want my subscribers to understand where that came from. And then what's an Instagram story? I've talked about this a little bit. It's that thing that's those little circles at the top of your home screen and that little camera in the top corner. It's essentially just Snapchat within the Instagram platform. So this is a next level thing. If you're just getting comfortable with Instagram, do not feel like you need to do Instagram stories. They're currently the best way to get new users and new followers because there's no algorithms associated with them. It's just chronological, which Instagram is now all algorithms. It's not, hey, they posted the most recently, so I'm going to see it. Facebook or Instagram stories still are this way, that if you posted today and you were the first one to post, people are going to see you first. So that's a good reason to use it, but get comfortable with the platform before you dive into Instagram stories. They are for in the moment things more than regular Instagram is. Instagram has turned into here's a good photo, here's a nice story, here's the people I'm working with, here's how I'm building community. That's how the Instagram platform is being used. This is just little tiny fun things that are happening on your farm, in your life, wherever, and they disappear within 24 hours. So don't put a ton of energy into them because they're going to go away. I've been a crazy Instagram fanatic for like 4 years. I just started using Instagram stories this winter. When the farm starts, we'll see. When the season like really starts, we'll see how much time I have for it. So like, don't feel like you have to use this. But yeah, so they build on themselves. So if you post one, it's at 8 a.m. and then again at 10 a.m., they'll just keep going in order and people can click through all of yours. Again, I put a ton of content on here. Mm-hmm. So they'll just keep building. And then at 8 a.m. the next morning, the first one will disappear, but the other ones will stay. So they'll stay literally for exactly 24 hours and then they'll disappear. If you are doing like a fun promotion occasionally, this could be a fun place to do that. Like, hey, you know, for the next 48 hours, we're going to do an extra special discount code for our Instagram followers. Like you could do things like that here because it's going to disappear. No one's going to see that discount code again. So like you could totally use it strategically for marketing. There's lots and lots and lots of resources online. If you just say like how to use Instagram stories for marketing, how to use Instagram stories, there's tons of good resources. But I won't go too deep into it because I don't want to like bury you with too much information unless there's specific questions how to use it. So I have this just so you can generally see like you're going to click on this little picture to start a story, or you're going to click on your logo and that little plus sign to start a story, or you're going to swipe this way. There's 3 different ways to do a story. Then once you get in there, you can do all of these things. There's a type, which is actually just words. So like that's where you could put in promo code, you know, IG followers, whatever. And you could just type, or you can do a live video. This is where that's happening in Instagram. If you want to do a live stream, that's within your stories. You can just do a normal photo, and then there's a bunch of other fun video options. And then you can jazz it up once you've taken it with like words, you can swipe up to see emojis or hashtags or link to people. There's a bunch of stuff you can do with it, and then you just post, and you just click this little button, and it'll post to your account. And then it'll disappear within 24 hours. So this is a fun thing. Use it if you're ready for next level Instagram. I've found it to be really useful, but I wouldn't encourage you starting here because if you're just getting comfortable with posting semi-regularly, don't do this. This is like a couple times a day kind of commitment. Any questions about it though? More generally, if you are thinking that you might use it, because I know I went real quick. Yeah.
How do you control the timing? What's the difference based on how many things are added? Sometimes I see someone's feed will be, oh, if it's on a video, obviously
Yep.
time that is a picture. Sometimes it's like up to 2 seconds you can't even see what's in it. Sometimes it'll just hang around for like 5 seconds.
Sometimes you click without knowing, because if you hit the second you hit the screen, it advances. So it'll advance within usually 5 seconds is like the preset. I haven't found, I'm sure there's a way to edit it because I've wondered that. I haven't figured it out. That would be a really easily Googleable thing. But yeah, when you're going through them, if you like accidentally touch the screen in any way, it's going to advance to the next one really fast, which I have done a lot. If you click on, oops, click on this side of your screen, it'll go to the next one. If you click on this one, it'll go backwards. Because sometimes people will have like a really long post and you'll want to read it and you won't be able to. Also, don't put long posts in Instagram stories. I think it's just annoying because no one's ever gonna, it's usually 5 seconds. You're not gonna get through it. But if you did wanna go back, you just click on this little, like this side of the screen and it'll shoot back to the previous one. But I do think this is like a fun place for recipes or like, you know, you get home at the end of the day and you can show, like you could use it for just maybe dialing on one strategy. Like, what are your farmers eating? This is just, you know, 3 nights a week. You take a short little video or photo of what you're cooking at night and you put it in there. If you're not usually putting food content into your normal Instagram feed, that could be a fun place to play around with it. So like there's definitely usefulness with it. But think a little bit about what you want that strategy to be and how it can add value to you, not just like take a lot of energy. Any questions about that one? It's also where you can put your less beautiful photos or your slightly off-brand content because it disappears, it's more fun, it's less professional. So if you're just being really creative and wanting to play around, you can do that here. How to connect to Facebook, we talked about that quite a bit. There's just this little button here. The first time you do it, it'll walk you through the prompts to make sure it's connected. But if both are a business account, it'll shoot it right over, which is really, really nice. But then, yeah, like I said, I usually will go straight to Facebook, look at how it looks, and be like, oh, I need to change how this person was tagged. Oh, I'm going to remove those hashtags. Oh, I'm going to add a link and delete what that said before. But so I like this a lot. It saves you a lot of work, especially if you're transitioning away from being Facebook heavy to Instagram heavy. You can do a lot of your posting right in Instagram and it'll just send right over. So how do you cultivate an audience? We talked about all these things, but I just wanted you to have a really cohesive place where all this lived. Likes are free, comments are better. Tags are the highest form of praise and respect. Use and follow relevant hashtags. This is how you create and cultivate an audience. It's really that simple. You like things, people will look at your account because they're like, wow, this person's liking a lot of my stuff. They must be interested in what I'm doing. I wonder if I'm interested in what they're doing. If you're just liking and commenting on stuff that you really enjoy, that is really content that you find interesting, that's how you gain followers. It's that authentic. It'll build a lot slower than someone who's using really wonky strategies and using a million hashtags on every post. But for me, my following has been growing slowly for several years, and I've made genuine friendships. I've found CSA members through it. I've built restaurant relationships through it because I'm just doing it in a really intentional, strategic, open way, which is how I do regular relationships. So just use it how you interact in normal life. And I really think that's how Instagram works the best for people. But yeah, so likes people will see, comments people will take notice of who you are and like, wow, they must really be excited about what I'm doing if they're going to comment on this. If they're going to take the time to comment, they looked at my post, they read my story, and they have a response. So they're going to spend a little more time getting to know you because you wrote a comment. So I think best practice, how do you fit this in your day? Just take 20 minutes at like lunchtime. Like you don't need to be on Instagram all day to be good at this, but just say, okay, I'm going to take 20 minutes and I'm going to be intentional on my newsfeed. I'm going to scroll through and I'm going to like and comment on all the things that I really like and enjoy. And then when you post, make sure you're using hashtags and tagging the people that you respect, and that'll really, truly build your audience. Okay, and then these are my 7 steps for all the things that I said. What should you do? How do you move forward? How do you use this? You should create a clear, concise profile with a call to action. Make that website something that you want people to do. Convert to a business account. That's going to be the most useful for you in the long run. It's going to give you the most things that you're allowed to do. Determine how you want to use Instagram versus other social media and some words that define your brand. You know, for me, it's love and it's health and it's my local community. What are your words? Start using them in your posts regularly. Find 50 people to follow. I know that's a big one, but just spend 2 hours one day finding a bunch of people. You could even just go to the Fair Share website and like all of those farms, or find whoever's on Instagram and like them all. You can start wherever makes sense. But just find some farms and start engaging with them naturally and see who they're following and click on who they're following. You know, so if you're just getting started, that part takes the longest. You know, try and spend an hour a week doing that, finding new people for a couple months, and you'll really be surprised how quickly you start to build a feed that excites you. Begin collecting strong images. Like I said, having a collection of strong images on Google Drive to use later, so you don't have to take things in the moment every minute, is totally okay and makes your life a lot easier. Start a very basic content calendar of, okay, I want to share, in February, I want to share a really honest story about who I am, where I came from. In February or in March, I want to make sure I have at least 3 posts about signing up for my CSA. You can plan out a tiny bit just so you start to make sure you're doing the things that you want to do. And then follow the audience cultivation tips that I said before. Try and do that weekly where you're liking and commenting. And thanks. Do you guys have any questions? I know that was a ton. Yes. You sort of kind of can. There's some apps. Oh, the question was, can you schedule posts like you can on Facebook? There are some apps that allow you to do it. They're pretty wonky. They don't work great. There's a couple. Plann, Plann, helps you schedule out your content. So it just helps you like save content and images in a place that then when you're ready to post, you can just pull it over. But you still have to like set an alarm to do that one. But it helps you kind of strategize like, okay, these are the 3 things I want to post this week. But it is not as simple as Facebook, and that is intentional because Instagram's trying to stay authentic. It doesn't want businesses to take it over, kind of how they did on Facebook. The reason the Facebook algorithms got so messy is because business learned how to use it too well and kind of took it over. So they're trying to keep Instagram as a conversation, so they're limiting some of those features. More because they got bought by Facebook. Since they got bought by Facebook.
Yeah.
Mine usually are things that I'm interested in, so I'm like not that upset about it, but I know. Yeah. But then you boost a post, then it works because we boosted a post for $20 across platforms, and I got like 20 CSA members in like 2 weeks.
I paid quite a lot.
And that is one thing too. You don't have to boost posts, but if you're really trying to engage and develop a marketing strategy, if you're just using Instagram for fun, to like follow farmers, to get food inspiration, whatever, but if you're using it to market, I would encourage you to have $100 or $150 budget to strategically use because Facebook and Instagram both, they reward you for paying to play. When you do, they'll start, like I paid for one ad that was $10 right when I had converted to business and my stats started dropping, and then it immediately rose for like the next 6 months. I only did that one $10 ad. So doing them occasionally, it'll help in the long run. Yes.
So I tried to Facebook ad where then I also said, sure, let's choose where you're going to have it.
Yep.
And I included Instagram.
Yep.
And then Instagram
My guess would be because you're less active there. Because for me, it's the total reverse. Because when I do both, my Facebook does okay, my Instagram soars past my Facebook ones. And again, they're owned by the same people now. They're really smart with that stuff, and they're strategically rewarding you for what you're doing. So like, yeah, yeah. I usually do a broad audience. I'll include people who do or don't follow me usually. Yeah. Yeah. I don't do it. I usually do ads for that reason, just to make sure they don't make me irrelevant. And then I get some CSA shares. So it's almost like you should budget $100 if you're using both platforms a lot, just to make sure the algorithms don't make you disappear, essentially, which is annoying, but that's what you pay for a website, so it's not that much money. And don't do them all at once. Like, don't do a $10 ad 10 weeks in a row, because then the whole rest of the year you might be irrelevant. I do like one $10 or $20 ad, usually around sign-up season, and then maybe like one in the fall. But that's a great question. Any other questions? I know I threw a lot at you. Was it helpful? Does it make you want to be on Instagram more or less?
I think I'll be more efficient from that. Just like there are a few things. The reposting. I bet I spent like an hour in Instagram trying to figure that out, not really realizing I needed a different app for it.
I did that for a really long time too.
Yeah, and a few other things. I think I spend more time trying to do it in Instagram, and I have to realize that it's all outside.
Yeah.
Like layout,
Yeah.
or boomerang, whatever.
Yeah. Boomerang is like a fun little filter thing you can do in Instagram stories where you can like, it's good for action. It's just super mini videos that go back and forth. It's really cute. But again, there's tons of stuff in these platforms, and you should use the stuff that brings you joy, and you should not do the stuff that doesn't bring you joy. So if you're doing Instagram and it's just not that fun telling your story with photos and words, and it's not that fun tagging people, and that's not how you build relationships, it might not be for you, and that's absolutely okay. My strategy with social media is like, if it's bringing you excitement and also bringing you business, perfect. But like if it's drudgery and you hate taking photos on the farm, you absolutely hate it, and you can't afford to like have an employee taking photos every day, you don't have to use these things, but they can be really helpful if you get genuine enjoyment out of it. Cool. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your help.